Welcome to the Higher Ed Geek Podcast, where we explore the impact of EdTech on the student experience with engaging, fun, and relevant conversations that honor the wide range of work happening all across the higher ed ecosystem. I'm your host, Dustin Ramsdell. I've been working in and around higher ed for the past decade, focused on student support and digital experience. Join me every week for discussions with some of the best minds in education technology. We'll be bringing you their perspectives on how digital transformation is reshaping the way we recruit, engage, and graduate learners. You'll hear firsthand accounts of how institutional leaders are developing their strategy, as well as get deeper on the stories of how these EdTech tools are being built to foster better student outcomes. With that, let's get to today's episode. Welcome back, everyone, to another super special live episode of the Higher Ed Geek Podcast, recorded here at Transact 360 in Las Vegas, Nevada. If you're following along, this is number 4 of the interviews that we're doing. We've got a jam-packed schedule here on site, and really grateful for this opportunity to talk with a lot of different folks. For me, getting exposure to a lot of different areas that I don't commonly get the chance to interact with. So this is a treat for me. But our guest here, Alison, if you want to introduce yourself, a brief intro of who you are, what you do, and what brings you to T360.
Thanks, Dustin. It's so good to meet you in person, and thanks for having me today. So I'm Alison Cove, founder and CEO of USEFULL, and the reason that I'm here today is, one, because I hate plastic, and I know a lot of college students and college campuses have similar problems with plastic and want to go zero waste and make sure that plastic doesn't end up in our bodies. So we are here exhibiting and showcasing our integration with Transact and Seaboard.
Yeah, and I saw, which was really cool, there's a couple of different approaches to this idea of reusable containers for dining halls and just places on campus that people eat and drink things and everything. So that sort of principle and that outcome, that value, like you're saying, very important, I think, for a lot of people today. But then also undergirding that with sort of a digital infrastructure that integrates with other, so that was just really cool for me to see, the work that you're doing in that space. And I guess just if you want to explain a little bit more about exactly what it is that you do, because I gave obviously very broad strokes, but if you want to go a little more in detail.
You can also take my job for the day.
No, yeah.
So maybe I'll back up for a minute and talk about why I do what we do, or why I started USEFULL. And it's really that I want to help improve student health outcomes or student health by eliminating plastic containers, whether that be reusable containers or single-use containers on these college campuses. And the reason for that is because these food containers are leaching microplastics into our bodies, and it's not good for us, let alone the waste impacts and the environmental impacts that it has. So with that all said, at USEFULL, we have a plastic-free, returnable takeout solution that's tech-enabled. So it's essentially like a library book system, but for reusable containers. And I'm happy to chat about the tech-forward portion of it and the integrations, but I don't want to steal your thunder. That's
definitely where I want to go, because I think the idea or the concept, because obviously a lot of places are well, you can bring your own cup and get a cup of coffee or whatever. I think that sort of idea is probably familiar to people, or they can appreciate or understand just the idea of we've got a bunch of containers, we're giving people, they bring them back, and all of that. But I think what is really exciting to me is the ways that technology can make that really seamless and easy, and because I think that would be something without that, there would be a diehard core of people that would absolutely do it no matter what, because it's just a point of pride for them and their values. But the idea of doing this at scale, doing it sort of easily and efficiently, I do think requires some sort of technology enablement and everything. So how do you see technology better enabling campus sustainability?
So you just brought up so many great points, and I know you asked about technology, but I also want to point out that bring your own programs have been around for a long time, and historically, we've only seen about 10% adoption of bring your own on any given day, which is to say that campuses have an opportunity to really lead and lean into having reusable packaging be the default takeout packaging, and really bump that up to near 100% reusable takeout on these college campuses, which is really cool to see. And that's in both retail settings, so your cafe or your burger shop, whatever, as well as all you care to eat traditional dining hall settings. Okay, so you asked about tech. I promise I'll talk about it. So the tech forward side of this is we essentially want to replace the single-use experience with a returnable experience. And we know that convenience is paramount for both the kitchen staff as well as the students. So to help make that all happen, we have technology and some integrations. So students order as they normally would, and then this time their food is packaged in reusable takeout packaging, and behind the counter in the kitchen, that they're actually assigned a container with their burger in it, say. And the campus then determines how long that student can hold on to that container. Is it 2 days? Is it 5 days? Is it 7 days before it's due back for dishwashing? We have a fantastic return rate because of this tech side of the house. And we have a firm but fair stick. So if students are late, we do $1 a day late fee, which is very, very fair, but very firm.
I imagine you could also know, well, hey, you student A, you haven't returned your thing, and I can nudge you and follow up with you and all that, versus just kind of being like, oh, I guess we're never getting that back, or something, because it's like, who took it? I don't know. How do we contact them? We can't. So even that piece of it, I guess, of just being able to know who in particular, and some accountability and consequences. It's an important lesson to learn.
And open and honest communication about expectations.
That's right.
A little accountability. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I guess I'm curious if you could speak just even generally, because I think there's a lot of aspects to this of I think why any institution should do it, for their own sake, for their students' sake and everything. And in my mind too, it's the idea of, if you're using single use stuff, you have to buy them in perpetuity too. Exactly. So there is kind of a cost to not having a sort of infrastructure for reusables that could just be washed and reused. Exactly. And, kind of have the circular kind of nature to them. So could you speak to that, I guess, of that idea of the cost of single use?
Yeah, certainly. So we aim to be cost competitive with single use packaging. And by and large, we are either cost savings or at least cost neutral with single use packaging. We also have heard anecdotally from our campuses that it is so nice to not be ordering these single-use packaging or packages all the time and needing to store them, that in fact reusable containers take up less space because they're coming back and they're not always in the storeroom or in the closet. So that's pretty exciting for us to see.
Why my mind goes there is knowing that you would have to kind of, build consensus, build a coalition, and some, sometimes that would require coming at it from different angles, because some people would be like, yes, I have a strong value and commitment to sustainability just because it's the right thing to do. I want to protect the environment, and even, and then maybe on the health side, different things like that. But sometimes it gets to be hey, we should do this because it's going to save us money. It's all some people's I could care less about any of that other stuff, but the dollars and cents of it, you convinced me,
Well, that was part of my core value when I was founding this business. I needed to create a business model that made economic sense, because the warm and fuzzy of environmental or health wouldn't build a business. You can't scale reuse, you can't scale sustainability without the economic sensibility of it all.
I'm curious with sort of what you're doing, because this is the question I'm asking everybody, and we can kind of sit with this for a little bit, but the idea of what you're watching on the horizon when it comes to your work and trends and any of that sort of stuff, or kind of what you're hearing maybe at this conference or something, what's sort of coming up to you right now that's maybe something that you're anticipating or you imagine other higher ed leaders need to be mindful of and need to be anticipating as well?
Sure. So certainly takeout is here to stay. It's not going anywhere, and students continue to demand it. The second piece is that we have seen a number of either states or schools have plastic-free goals, so we are able to help them achieve those goals. And I think as more and more research becomes mainstream about the negative health impacts of plastic, more and more people will be switching over to plastic-free alternatives. For a lot of folks, they start with compostable packaging. However, it's by and large just expensive trash. If it's compostable, it needs to go in a composter, a commercial composter, which are few and far between. Just tossing it in the normal trash can, again, is expensive trash. It's not going to break down in the landfill. There is also concern about what is used to waterproof those containers. Historically, it's been a lot of PFAS, which is a forever chemical and probably a buzzword you're familiar with. And now we're seeing a lot of bioplastics, which are made from natural sources, but have the same chemical composition as plastics. So again, we're in this conundrum of compostables are expensive trash. And so long story short is we need to solve for takeout, and we need it to be convenient. And so again, we're leaning into plastic-free. We're also leaning into elevating the takeout experience. So our plastic-free solution is stainless steel, double wall, insulated containers. So it really holds your food at temperature for 5 or more hours and just watertight. So when you get back to your dorm room or wherever, you're not getting a sloppy whatever a container all over everything. I see you nodding your head.
Yeah. Because like some of those like practical pieces are what like, because like a lot of what I've talked about so far just is acknowledging like payments and transactions and interactions and things. And if it's like, nowadays I feel like just human beings, even, and certainly students and everybody else at higher institutions serve, like even minimal like friction,
right.
Like people are just sort of going to bail out and not bother and whatever else. So just creating structures and processes and everything that really minimizes and removes friction and everything, like a practical thing like that of like, I love this concept. It's so great. You've got this whole tech infrastructure, but like it leaks all over my backpack and my books, my super expensive textbooks or whatever. That would be like a super practical thing. It's like the containers just aren't good. Like I wish they were better. I want to use them. Exactly. That would be a thing. And I mean that's almost kind of like a brick wall you're running into. But like it's those sort of acknowledgments where it's like you could do all of this like amazing work, but then like if especially at that sort of like point of engagement or interaction, like you kind of lose people or something. 'Cause it's like. And like my day job and everything, it's a lot of like, working with prospective students, like the most amazing brand, the most amazing institution, the most amazing program, but then like they're trying to like request information and do whatever else. And it's like, how do I do that? Who do I reach out to? Is it a form? I don't know. Like, and it's like you lost them there because they hit, even just sometimes again, minimal friction or just like a dead end brick wall and like those sort of things. So it's like the behavioral piece or just sort of the user experience is certainly has to come up a lot in our conversations too. So
so important.
I'm curious, I guess, just any other sort of, because like obviously your core area that you work in and sort of the kind of food service space and everything. Are you having conversations, I guess, like with institutional leaders? Like, I guess I'm just curious, like how those interactions go when they're thinking about this. Like, is it something that's like you're hopping on or sort of piggybacking on like student initiatives, or like how does sort of, I guess, like the interactions go in the sense of like you're working with students to like implement this, or the the leaders are hearing from their students, so they're reaching out. Like, I guess just the nature of sort of like how these things develop or sort of like kind of come to be.
So by and large, it is the administration reaching out and us having those conversations. While I love students and I love their engagement, unfortunately, they lose interest pretty quickly and they graduate, or it's the end of the semester or what have you. So they're great to start a conversation, but they often can't finish the conversation. Right. So yes, leadership is super important to help make this happen, and we work with auxiliary services teams or business teams as well as dining teams to help make it happen.
Yeah, well, because like it seems like it would be something that is like a bit cross-functional, especially with like sort of the tech infrastructure that we need to plug into a whole other tech stack and all of that. Because I think that's something that I've just observed, that idea of sort of, building consensus and the nature of something like this. Like, obviously, it's necessary and important that it is sort of like touching on various departments and everything. But like, obviously, that does also make it a little bit more complicated if people need convincing in different ways. But
well, I would be remiss to mention that we are an exclusive integration partner with Transact, so we have integrations with their mobile ordering kiosk and point-of-sale devices to help streamline the user experience. We also have the ability to really implement pretty quickly because of our partnership with Transact and how tight it is. So while, yes, all those things could need to happen, we've really tried to make it easier for everyone involved to streamline things.
Yeah, that's great to hear, because I think I guess I was like following a thread of the idea of just like this being just yet another example of like why higher ed needs to continue to sort of like break down the silos and those sort of things. And even just like, I think the external partners to an institution having sort of the almost like humility or whatever, like just to acknowledge like we need to make it as easy to implement this as possible. Because I think, again, it's to make the greatest ed tech platform or whatever else, on planet Earth, but it requires like, massive amounts of, resources to, build it and implement it and maintain it and everything else. And so
maybe to build on that idea and maybe to plant a seed with listeners, the one place that we do see those silos is with return bins. So trash cans and recycling bins are ubiquitous on college campuses. They're everywhere. However, with implementing reuse on campus, we often find that the return locations are just in locations where dining manages or operates. So there isn't a return bin at the gym or the library or the science center, what have you. And although we're helping all those locations reduce waste tremendously, it's not as convenient for the student because they do need to find some location that is managed by dining. So that's my plug that's an opportunity to break down the silos and potentially work with facilities or whomever manages waste on campus to have reuse be incorporated into that waste management.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good call out, because I think if you can anticipate those things like at the outset, it's like, hey, we're considering doing this, and like you bring that person in earlier versus it just being like, hey, I'm basically being like told to do this or something. And it's like, what is this? I didn't even know that we were doing this.
It's an opportunity to really make students happy.
Yeah. Well, and I think to the point of like the points of friction kind of thing and the user adoption, with students, it's like, we can't just have it in one spot. Like we should really have it, in as many spots as it makes sense to. And, that would be, a huge stride towards greater user adoption for students. And I think that's part of, again, you could do the most amazing implementation, but then if it's just like, we didn't anticipate that variable of like, really good things to consider, I think just generally for folks that are, doing this kind of work, partnering, supporting institutions. But certainly I just am personally interested and really love just sustainability stuff like this. So just really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you about it, uplift your work, and just appreciate you taking the time.
And I appreciate the conversation and the opportunity to talk with you and meet you in person.
Thanks for listening to the Higher Ed Geek podcast. This show is a proud member of the Enrollify Network, home to Higher Ed's largest collection of podcasts. Enrollify is where higher ed goes to grow, so be sure to check out our other podcasts, webinars, video clips, blogs, and more. Visit enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly in your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com.